Welcome to Member365's webinar on continuing education unit tracking with strategies and best practices for automating CEUs. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christine Bundy. Fun fact is I love questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in to the Q&A found at the bottom of your screen. At any time throughout the presentation, I do have it open on my second screen, and I sometimes get the chance to answer them as we go, but all questions will be answered at the end. Everyone has been muted. All cameras are off except for mine. And so if you have those questions, please put them into the Q&A. Today's session is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. All right, so what are we going over today? So for today, we are going to just briefly give some definitions. So a clear understanding of what is a continuing education program, what is an activity, what is a level, what is a collection period, and then we're going to go in and create all of those things and show you how the members can add an activity, how activities can be automatically created within the system, and how there is an approval process for activities created by members to help you with that. And so we're going to go through those steps. We're going to also go over some best practices and again, questions at the end. So to start off, what is a continuing education program? This is where you have a certification, designation, accreditation, whatever word or label that you'd like to use, where someone has to earn so many hours or credits to be able to be designated or certified or then maintain their certification. So that's what the program is. It's having all of these things put together in order to be able to maintain a certification, accreditation, or certificate of some sort. In that program, you have an activity. An activity is something that somebody does to earn either those credits or hours. So it could be going to an event, it could be taking a course, it could be taking a quiz, it could be writing an essay, it could be mentoring, it could be a number of different things. Whatever you've designated as an activity that is assigned an hour or a number of credits towards it is what an activity is within a CE program. The next level from that is when you take your activities and then you bundle them, it's called a level. So a level is where you have, let's say you have a bunch, you have to earn 20 credits. You're breaking that down into different levels. So not everyone does just the one thing. So not everyone can just sit and watch YouTube videos and take a quiz and be done their credits. So you have like online training courses, that's one level. You have in-person activities, that's second level. And then you have a third one where they have to attend number of networking events, or they have to do something within the platform. Maybe they're a reviewer and they have to review someone's documents in order to say that and give feedback. So lots of different activities, but each of them can be broken down so that it's fair, and it's also giving everybody a very round perspective of knowledge where they're not just focused on one thing. So that's what the different levels can also be used if they have to do things in a certain, if they have to do so many items of the same thing. So continuing education, they might have to do some development courses versus they have to do training courses for safety every year, and they're mandatory no matter what, but it's retraining every year that has to be done. So levels can be used to group your activities that need to be completed. Then to go a step above that, you have your collection period. And so with your collection period is where it's the time in which you have to complete that. So let's jump in to Member365, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more. Here we are in Member365 on the admin dashboard. And to get to continuing education, it needs to be enabled on your system. So it is a premium. It is not a standard package. And if you are looking to get it added on, you need to talk to your account manager. So right now we've relabeled it. So it is it can be called continuing education, it can be called education. We can relabel it. We simply call it the CEU. In here, the first thing that we're going to do when you're doing any setup is we're going to do the basics. So we're going to go and get the levels set up and the configuration set up for the activities so that when we add activities, they're going to the right places. So first thing in here is going to activity levels. And these are all the different levels that are currently set up in our system. You can create different ones. Within each of these, you can set minimums. So they have to do a minimum of at least one of these credits and a maximum. So they can't take 50 of ethics and get all of their credits. They can only, if they take 50, great, it's recorded, you keep that history, but only 10 of those credits are used towards their collection period to become certified. So you can have rollover if you want, or carryover. So if let's say that they have 50, they did their 10, but 40 of those credits can be rolled over to the next collection period if you want to, or you can have a maximum of maybe just the 10 for the next year. You're going to give them a grace. Not everyone uses carryover. It completely depends on your policies if you want to use it, but our system does have that ability. If you don't want to do it based on numbers, you can do it based on percentages. However, the biggest advice I will give anyone for certification programs, and I've seen a lot of them over the 8 years I've been here, keep it simple. If you even have a complicated one, step back, reevaluate, and make it as simple as possible. Because if it's too complicated, no one's going to get through it. And it's going to be difficult for everybody, not just you as administrators. You want to automate as much as possible, but also can be frustrating for your members if they don't have a clear understanding as to what it is. So always, first thing is write out what your program is so they know. And I've had some really great clients do this, and it's helped them clear understanding from their members. Their members know exactly what they need, and then they know exactly what they need to do within the system. Always understand what your policies are, what is absolutely needed, and then what is not needed within your program. But these levels allow you to make it so that they can do as many as they want, but only so many are going to go towards their actual certification program. Make sure you save. So once you have all of your levels, which we've already had here, we're going to go back over to your CEU and to your settings, and then we're going to go into your activity configuration. Now, some people are like, hey, what are categories? That's an old part of our system. We still have a few people that are using it, but it's not something that we use currently now. So in the rules here for the configuration, can you allow submissions within the portal? So that means that I, as a member, can make a submission for my activity. Yes, I always like to do that. Can users create brand new ones? That means if they did something that is not within the system and is a third party, can they submit it for approval? Or just submit it if there is no approval? So we say yes. Can they remove their own? I always like to say yes, because if they made a mistake, maybe they added one, they should be able to remove it. Again, up to your discretion. Approval activities, if they are doing new ones, I always say I recommend turning this on. However, this does require admin to review them and approve them. So if you don't have that manpower, or it's not something that's in your policies and you're going on the honor system, you don't need to have it on. I'm having it on so I can show you how it works. Then you're going to allow members to enter credit amounts. This is, again, up to your discretion. Do you want to do that? Do you want them to do that? Or based off of what they say? Levels 2, what level is it associated with? Can multi-levels. I actually don't recommend using multi-levels unless you have to. Again, keep it simple. One activity is for one level. Now, I know you do sometimes, some of them have split courses where one half is for this course and the other half is for this type of level. So there are certain circumstances, but they could always submit 2 activities, one for each, and then it goes into the right spot. In the report into one row, I always like to have that one on. Show transcript. I love having this on because then the individuals can print it. If you're not a governing body, so if you're not the one who's issuing the credits or the certification program, you might just be a facilitator for people to earn credits with you so that they can take those credits and provide them to the governing body, then transcripts are really awesome for you to do that because they can just simply grab it at any time from the member portal of all credits that they've earned to be able to provide to the governing body. We also have the ability for certificates for certain activities, depending on which one you want to do. Show pending. If you have approval on, I always recommend having this on so people can see what they've already submitted because they might have forgotten. You're sitting there and you are getting 1 or 2 or 3 in and you're like, oh, wait, did I do that one? If you don't see it in the pending, then they're going to re-add it and then double the work for everybody. So I always like to show that if I have approval on. Pending approval in CRM and portal. Yeah, again, both documents. If it is mandatory, so if they need to provide proof, then you want to have this on so that if they must provide a certificate for the third party to say that it was completed, then you can do that. Make any description mandatory fees. I always like to turn this one on because you want to get as much detail as you can out of them. So they provide you with not just a name and a date, they have to actually put something within the description. You can relabel. So this says credits, but if you're collecting hours over credits, you just simply change this to say hours. And then you ask which are needed. So I always do the bare minimum. So you absolutely need the start and end date. You need to know where that is, and then number of credits, or you could say hours, depending. However, any of the additional information, if you need the contact, you need a sponsor name, all of these you can check off. Notes, I only check on if I don't have this one as mandatory, but it is, so they can just put all their notes in the description. If you need the location of school, the location of the event, you can add that in. Pre-accreditations, if needed, website leader, or number of days that they had done it. Once you have this filled out based off of your criteria, you're going to hit update. Now, we've done the 2 setups. Now we're going to actually create the program. Now I already have one already in here, but I'm going to go to my category setup. So all certification programs are connected within our system to a membership. Now, it could be a separate membership. It could be part of your regular membership program and having that certified component, or it could be a separate because you can have more than one membership on your contact record. So that being said, when you come in here, we just have a certified membership program and just give it a minute to load. All right, so one thing I'm checking down here is I have an anniversary renewal date. When you are creating a CEU program, you want to make sure you're aligning that with your program, because if you have an anniversary date versus an annual date, things can get complicated and they don't line up. So it's always best that if you're going through a renewal cycle, that your accreditation aligns with that renewal cycle. That's the best advice. And sometimes they don't, but then you have to be able to have kind of exceptions in those rules, which I'll show you in just a minute. So first, when you come in here, you're going to see CEU, you're going to turn it on, and then you're going to add how many credits are needed to become certified or maintain your certification. How many days after the collection period is over can they still submit activities that were completed during that previous collection period? So if they don't collect them and it's afterwards, I can't, if my collection period ends on December 31st, I can't put in an activity that I did on January 4th for that collection period. It will not auto assign to it because it was completed on January 4th. But I can submit something that I did in November that I just forgot to put in, and it would go towards that collection period because it was before December 31st, not after. So I always like to give people grace period because life's busy, it can get hectic, give people the opportunity. You still got to send lots of reminders, and you can do that within the system too. Then we have these rules. So this is why it's really important to have your alignment with your collection periods. Because if your active collection period rules, do you want to allow members to renew their membership while the collect activity is active, even if they have not reached their minimum? So if they're not aligned, so let's say that their collection period is after their renewal, you don't necessarily, you might want to allow them to renew their membership because they still have time to collect for that collection period. And so you don't want to prevent them from renewing because they still have time to collect for the collection period, but it would be on the next cycle that you wouldn't want them renewing. So again, this is why it's important that you align your collection periods as close as possible, because if they haven't gotten those collection period credits, by the time it's time to renew, you can make it so they can't renew for their certification program because they haven't completed the tasks needed. And then you can either assign a credit for them, maybe there's extraordinary circumstances, but you can work that out with them separately. Then the next rules, if the expired collection period. So do you want to allow members to renew their membership after their collection period has expired and they have not reached the minimum? So some certification programs are optional and not mandatory. So then this is where you would want to turn, if it's not mandatory, turn it on. If it is mandatory, you want to say no. Insufficient credit. So this is the message that appears when you're trying to renew, but you don't have enough credits. So you can adjust this message at any time to be within your language, and this is just our standard template. Next, we're going to go down to levels. And as you notice, I didn't mention groups in today's session, which is okay, because groups are very rare and not commonly used. If you think you want another level above levels, which is not very common, let me know and I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you. But levels are the most commonly used and what we recommend using for the system, also for all of your analytic capabilities. So in here, I would select the levels that apply to this certification program because you might have multiple and that's okay. So you just simply check them off and then you're going to go down and do your collection period. For your collection period, you can do a name, any name. We're just saying collection period. You want to say when members apply, when does their collection period apply to them? I always like to go and find out who was the first person to ever join the organization and say after that date is when anybody can be added to a collection period. Now I have an anniversary membership. So I'm having an anniversary collection period. If I had an annual membership, I'd have an annual collection period because again, you want them to align together so it's smoother and you can catch people if they haven't earned their credits, they don't get to renew that certification program. Rollover is if roll outstanding credits is if there are credits that you didn't complete. So some associations have this policy where I may have had 50 credits, but I only earned 40. So the next year I have to earn 60 credits. And so that rollover is the credits they did not complete. And so it just continues on to the next collection period. So that's what that is. It's not commonly used. So if you're wanting to carry over, that is within the levels that you set that up, not within here. Do you want to automate the collection period? Yes. So once the collection period ends, I want the next one to start automatically so that they're always going through their collection period. Then you would select how long. Is it a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year collection period? You decide. And then finally is, would you like a certificate to be issued for that collection period? When is that certificate issued? That's on the last option where you can determine if it's never, always, when the member, active member and has the required credits or or can be controlled and sent by an administrator after review. All options are available. Make sure that once you're done, you save. Now we're probably wondering, what does it look like? So now we've done the levels and how do we add activities and all that fun things. So let's go to the member portal because I already have an example here to show you. And I'm going to go to my CEU and I'm going to go to my activities. So activities, like I said, could be many things. Within our system, if you do an event and you've marked as attending, you can automatically be signed credits. If you do an LMS course and complete it, you can automatically be assigned credits. So credits can be assigned automatically within the system and can be added to your transcript automatically. So long as it's completed within that collection period, it's added to that collection period and the level that it is associated with. If they are not associated with a level, they are not attached to your overall because they're not attached to something that is required within, even though they may have done that activity and earned those credits, they're not earned towards your certification program. So that's why the levels are here to give you your minimums and your maximums. And then you can see how many have been accumulated and how many are still required. If they need to add their own, again, from third party, that's what we turned on. That's what this is for. So they can add ones that they've done for a third party. That's the option at the top. You can also provide activities that have been pre-approved by your team that they can select. So they could do, hey, maybe they did a public speaking. They could say the date and they can upload a file to a proof of them doing that and submit it for approval. Or they could just add an activity based off of those fields that we had. And so this could just be for development. We could have a description, add details here. You would select the level it was associated with. You can say the province. When did it occur? Say on the 12th. And it was 3 credits worth because it was 3 hours. You could provide a document or proof certificate, although we did not make it mandatory, so it's not mandatory. If you want, you can make them mandatory. And then you could submit. When it's submitted, it's added pending approval. This one was denied. And then on the admin side, it's going to go onto your alerts. One thing before we jump over to the approval process, I wanted to show you that this is where the transcript lives on the portal side, where they can generate and download it for the collection period that they need it for. So that is available for them. So let's go back to the CRM and let's show you where you can then approve those activities that you have enabled. So on the dashboard, there are a few options. So recently activities assigned, approved, activities pending mailouts, and then approved. So these mailout ones are mainly for when you have a seal or something that is required when they've earned that credit. So this is for admin purposes only. If you go in here and you're like marking these, they are not going to send anything. It's strictly for tracking as an administrator. So if this is just simply noise to you, you can hit send to all. If you have to physically send something to them for a seal or a certificate because it has to have a special paper or something along those lines, that happens quite often, this tool is to help you with that. But the one for the approval that we want to look at is going down to activities pending approval. And in here is where you can see. So this is the one that we made. I can look at the details simply here and hit approve. Or I can click on the name and I can see more of the details. I can assign it so that it's going to go to my certified membership program or any other program that it's allowed to go to. I can say that, yes, I'd like it to display, so as a pre-approved, or I simply want it to show on the transcript. I approve it, say yes, and I'm done. And then it's automatically showing on the transcript. They have it as an approved activity, and you're done for that way. So that's how you would do approvals. If you want to see all activities, you can go to manage activities in here. Now, this does not show activities assigned from events. So if you have an activity on an event or credit on an event and that's deemed, it will not create an additional activity here. These are only for the ones that are manually made either by an administrator or by a member themselves, like we just did with the development one here. So that's why they are not all going to appear, and they may not appear in sequential order, because an activity here might be created, and then it might be created in the events, and then it might be created in the LMS, and then you might come back here. So if they're seeming out of order, that's a commonly asked question. That's why. Okay, so we have done activities. We've shown you where. We show you you can also on the back end add activities. You can also see activities for members as a administrator on their contact record. So you can come in here and see what they see. It's exact same view, and you can also add activities as well. So you can see the different activities as well within here and see what they need. These are additional buttons. You cannot see them. I'm a super user, so they are for super users only. If you ever need to change someone's or make updates to someone's collection period, you can do when you click on that program and you go over here to collection period, you can update collection periods as needed for each for the current collection period that they're in. If you need help with any other collection periods, just let us know. I'm more than happy to help. Then let's go into some reporting. So last couple things I always like to mention, there is the activity report. So you can see how many people are in which activity. And then there's also the credit report. So this one is my favorite for being able to get a quick glance as to what collection periods people are in, how they're doing with their credits, how many are required, so where are they standing. And you can also send out reminders manually here as well, or you could filter and send out a mass email all at once to a group of individuals based off of the different filters that you enable within here. So I can only do it for the one program and send out information out for that. All right, so let's go back to Member365 and go over some or slide deck. And we will do some best practices and then questions. So if you have questions, put them into the Q&A. As I had previously mentioned, is keep the programs simple. A lot of time I get into programs and they're so complicated that they can't even be articulated correctly. And so if you can't articulate it really easily, then you might want to take a step back and rethink, can we make this simpler? Is there a way that we can still get them to do the things we need them to do, but make it a simpler process? So try not overcomplicating it, making this very clear, write it out, make sure that you understand it and everybody else understands it, and that they have access to understanding that on the website so they know exactly what the certification program is. Use levels to encourage engagement. Again, breaking up so they're not just focused on one activity, they can do other activities too. I hear it all the time where someone spends hours on one and didn't realize they had to do two other levels and just not wasted, they learned some things. Learning is never wasteful, but they didn't use their time wisely into getting their actual certification because they spent it all on one level and not the other two. Finally, align collection period with your renewal timing so that they match up. Because if you have an annual membership, you want an annual collection period. If you have anniversary membership, you want an anniversary collection period so they match. Sometimes people do them just before, like collection periods just before memberships renewals, and then they can catch anybody. Those are exceptions to the rules, but you typically want them to be aligned. All right. Do we have any questions? If you're using categories, can you switch? Okay, so if you are currently using categories, you can't just switch them over to levels. However, you can enable levels for the next collection round and so that it starts to be used. So if you are on an older system or with us for a longer time and you're revamping it, you want to move off of categories and into levels. Categories also sometimes associations use them for internal purpose tracking, but it's not within many of our reports. So it's just for internal use only. Do you want to use pre-approval? If you want to have pre-approved activities so members can upload proof, how do you set them up for members to select. Oh, so that's what we had over. Great question. Let's go back into Member365. So in Member365 for the configuration part, that's what we have. So if you're in your activity configuration, manage, you would have them so they can submit. And you would force documentation. So you would turn this on and then you would save it. And so now when they go to do an activity, it's then going to be mandatory for them to do it. So I come in here, activities. And so even if I have a pre-selected one, and I'm just going to take one of these, I have to now upload. I'm just taking a random photo, a document for that to be making it mandatory. So that's submitted. And then it's right here. So it's not approved. Oh no, that's right. It is pre-approved. So it is automatically pre-approved for when they are like this. There is no, sorry, there's no approval. Apologies. So if I do another one and I don't, it's not, did it save? Yeah, sorry, I'm also reading other questions. So yes, so if they want to, are you asking can they edit the activity once submitted? We had discussed that. However, oh, it's for new activities. I apologize. It's not for pre-approval. So no, you can't do it for pre-approval, making it mandatory. I will ask about that though. So we should probably add that. That's a good add-on. It's a little bit of a gap. But it's only for new activities that this would be mandatory. So if they go to add their own, they have to provide it. That is a great suggestion though. Sorry, thank you for that. So for the next question, sorry, after that is tracking tools. So yes, once somebody submits an activity, they cannot go back and edit it, especially because if it's going through an approval process, they can't be fixed or updating it while they are in the process of approving it. So that's why we don't allow that to happen. I believe we did 8 years ago and it got really confusing because then the administrator said they looked at it and then it got edited. And then it was just a lot of like, there's no like prevention. So once they submit it, it's submitted. They can always have the option for being able to remove it because maybe, oh, I made a mistake. They can remove it and then resubmit that activity. So I hear you, but yes, that's why we don't allow it. How and where do you set up pre-approval classes? So pre-approvals, you just make them. So you go into manage activities and you can come in here and create activities and they can be approved. So if this is just for, I'm just going to say approve. And this is, we can give a description for this. It's going to be for this level, for this many hours, for activities for this program. And then I'm going to say display on member portal. And that's where you have created your pre-approval. When I approve it, it gets set. And now it's going to be in my pre-approval list in the member portal. So that's how you create those. Great question. Any other questions? And I'm sorry if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my other screen. Okay, if you have other questions at any time, please submit them as a ticket. Again, we love questions and suggestions. I do really like your one about pre-approvals requiring submissions. I will look into that. And so those, please bring them forward. Everything that we do kind of within our CE program is based off of suggestion and feedback. So thank you so much for everybody who's already contributed to that. We really appreciate it. And if not, I will look forward to speaking with you next time. Thanks for joining us today.